All right, everybody, welcome. It is the Fantasy Timeline, episode 4. I'm here, Josh, at Real Fantasy TL. I'm here with my main man, Bill at Super Dupaflex. How you doing, Bill?
Doing good. Looking to see how the last few teams are of whether I'm going to get into the playoffs or not. So we'll see what happens tonight.
I know this Monday night game has a lot of implications for a lot of people. I have a few teams that are hinging on possible playoff bursts. I have need a little Chris Carson love in this game. He's already doing well for me. I know my wife has a team. She's looking at Kirk Cousins and Tyler Lockett doing some damage to advance her already high seed in a certain playoff. So, a lot of people I've seen on Twitter all day talking about, they're looking for DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett or Dalvin Cook or somebody in this game to really blow up and help them out. But before we get to the news, Bill, did you get enough to eat this Thanksgiving? How was it?
Oh yeah, it was good. I don't think I gained the 5 pounds that I said last week, but I'm sure I gained a couple pounds. So yeah, it was a
That's
good
fine.
day of eating and catching a little bit of football.
That's good because whatever weight you may have not put on, I probably made up for. I probably gained 10 to 15 pounds myself.
Oh,
So,
well done, well done.
yeah, so I took the weight you didn't want to gain and I put it on myself. So,
Much
but
appreciated.
I'm glad you had enough to eat. There was plenty of football action on Thanksgiving and this weekend. So going to that, we're gonna start here with a couple of quarterback questions. So we saw the the showdown between Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and it didn't end up well for Cleveland Browns and their fans. And Baker Mayfield injured his hand. He had a big rap if you saw it after the game. Um, the x-rays were negative, but Baker himself said after the game that his hand is a little numb. Uh, doesn't sound good to me, but I always defer to you, Bill. You are a quarterback guru. Um, do you think it's worth people in superflex leagues to pick up their backup? He threw a couple passes in that game, Garrett Gilbert.
Um, I don't think so. I think if you're banking, the only way I would pick him up is if I have Baker and I only have 2 quarterbacks and I'm in the playoffs.
Okay.
Those would really be the only reason I would pick him up. I mean, he's a 28-year-old journeyman, been with, I think, 7 or 8 teams, played in the AFL, and I'm not sure what you're really going to expect out of him. I mean, I don't think he's really worth the grab, even in hopes that he blows up next or for these next couple weeks, so that he has some value next year. So, I mean, I think he's just kind of a pass, unless you really, really, really need a quarterback and you don't want to risk Baker not playing next week.
Gotcha. So if you're in a league with, let's just say, a few more teams, a 14 or 16 team league, and you have Baker and you're in the playoffs, do you think about, if someone for some reason did have him on a roster, maybe throwing your late third at him, late fourth? No,
I
you're
don't
leaving
think
it alone.
so. Yeah, I mean, I think that with a third, I can probably get somebody else that's going to score. I mean, is somebody going to sell Fitzpatrick for that? I mean, if people don't think he's going to play next year,
Right.
maybe you have to pay a little bit more, but you just get so much more of a known production.
Right.
I'd probably pass pretty much in most situations, unless I can get him for free on waivers.
So Garrett Gilbert, leave him on the waiver wire, leave him on somebody else's bench. Don't buy the hype. Go get yourself Fitzpatrick. Go get
There we
yourself,
go.
you know.
He's got a pretty good matchup for the playoffs too. So
spend a little bit more, maybe get yourself a Derek Carr. Maybe if you're hurting and you need kind of a fill in, but
go get Fitzpatrick.
Go get Fitzpatrick.
That's right.
Don't waste your fab or your picks on Garrett Gilbert.
Correct.
Another quarterback question. We saw the very short emergence of Nick Foles until the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ran roughshod on him, and then the secret gardener, as I've heard him called, Gardner Minshew, comes back. The mustache, the myth, the legend. He's back in, and it looks like he's probably going to be the starter in Jacksonville for the rest of the season. So my first question is going to be, maybe you have been hit by some QB injuries. Maybe you do have Baker on your team and you're unsure about his status. What do you think Gardner Minshew's value is right now, knowing that he probably starts the rest of the game here for the Jaguars?
I would say that, I mean, it's got to be late first, early second. I mean, pretty much anybody who has the potential to have value going into the following season as a quarterback, for the most part, is worth that.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not sure I'd be paying a first right now, but I can't fault someone if they need a quarterback to pay that. If you're looking for, if you're in a playoff hunt and you're going to have a late first round pick. I mean, I could see someone doing that. I don't know. I mean, I think that obviously I would feel much better paying an early second, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do to try to win. And if you feel confident that he's going to play, which I'm still not 100% confident that he's going to be the starter the rest of the season. Okay. I think maybe they just pulled Foles because he, was having a rough outing. I hope Minshew plays the rest of the season. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them throw Foles back in just to try to get some people interested to maybe make a move for him in the offseason. Right. But, I mean, what's a couple games really going to do? Right. I mean, now that I think about it, when everybody already knows what Foles is. So maybe they do keep Minshew on the field, which, I mean, it's hard to argue putting him out there. I mean, he looked so much better even under pressure than Foles did in this last game. And so, yeah, I mean, you're probably having to pay a first right now. 112, 1 to 110 range, maybe.
Yeah. So
what would you pay?
The craziest thing is, and we talk about this all the time, we say, be decisive. I did not follow our advice. I was indecisive before the game started Sunday morning in a league I'm in. I was ready to offer somebody a second-round pick for Gardner Minshew, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it. Nick Foles is going to be in there for the rest of the year. And, of course, as I'm watching another game, Fox comes on and says, hey, by the way, Gardner Minshew's now in for the Jags. And I go, shit, I missed the opportunity. I wasn't decisive. I talked myself out of it. And, it's my own fault. And I had more of a long-term plan saying, I think Minshew is going to have a real decent shot of being the starter next year. And in a super flex, to get a starter for, a second round pick, which in this case would be a mid to late second round pick. I mean, you've kind of cashed in, because there aren't a lot of people, unless, like you said, it's a Ryan Fitzpatrick type who may or may not even be in the league next year, or may or may not even be a starter next year. Those are the type of guys that you're usually getting for those mid to late second round picks. You're not getting the type of guy like Minshew to be a 16-game starter for a team that actually has some weapons. I mean, their record doesn't reflect it, but DJ Chark, D.D. Westbrook, Leonard Fournette. I mean, they have some weapons there, so it's not like you're buying into a really bad offense that this quarterback won't be able to get stats with. But yeah, I wasn't decisive. I missed out, and now I personally think that it's Minshew's show for the rest of the year. And I mean, unless he falls on his his face, I think he is going to. I think, I think I missed an opportunity, and that's my fault. But let's flip it. What do you think Nick Foles' value is right now?
I think he's probably in that second, mid-second range.
Mm-hmm.
It might be worth a shot trying to get him right now, where people are just thinking he's not going to have any value.
Right.
But as a Dynasty Outhouse tells us, he's a big pile of poop. But I think that, you might be able to get him for a late second, and that might be worth just taking a shot on him. And if he ends up a starter next week or next year, you just flip him even for an early second and,
right,
profit.
Yeah. And I kind of want to use the thought process I was using with Gardner Minshew and go, while I may not think he starts in Jacksonville next year, I feel that he has that Sam Bradford quality to him where the Jags may sit on him for part or all of the preseason, wait for a big time injury to happen, and then trade him for a pick just to get the contract off the books. Because my wife and I were talking about this earlier. His contract, the dead cap hits that he has are insane. I think it's $33.5 million next year, and then $12.5 million the year after that. I may be slightly off, but we were looking at it earlier today. So it's not even a situation where they can cut him and just get out from under the money. They're stuck with him unless they can ship him off somewhere else. So I'm almost thinking that he'll go somewhere at some point once there's an injury on another team, and the Jaguars, can maybe recruit a fourth or fifth round pick and just be happy to get the money off the books. But we talked about a couple of quarterback issues. Now, it just seemed like there were a lot of injuries this Sunday. One of the big injuries was Greg Olsen. Just a nasty hit he took. The guy on Washington, I can't remember his name right now, actually got ejected for that hit. I don't know, just based on his age and on the fact that he's been thinking about retiring for the last couple seasons, if we even see Olsen for the rest of the season. So, as the banner says, it's time for Thomas. What are your thoughts about Ian Thomas? Is this a guy that you look at maybe if you're a rebuilding team and you look at a contender or you look at another rebuilding team that has Ian Thomas? Is this a guy you're going to shoot out and try to go get, or is this someone that maybe you want to see a game or two out of before doing that?
Well, he kind of flashed last year when Olsen was out, and he was actually being targeted a decent amount when Olsen was in. I'm not really sure what's going on this year, where they haven't really used him hardly at all. I think that he's definitely worth a shot. I think he was pretty high spark score and all that, and he was pretty productive in college. So definitely worth a shot. It's only his second season, so it's so hard with tight ends to just give up after, a year or two, even 3. Everybody expects these guys to just blow up immediately. And Ebron, it took him a while. Hooper, it took him a while. I mean, there's just guys that, slowly progress and get better and better. And, once they're, whether it's they pick up the scheme better or they're just more physically, strong enough to play the position, it just takes some guys, it takes longer for them to show because they're just not, as great at, running routes or whatever it is, because that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for guys who can catch the ball. So if they're not getting the opportunity because there's a vet in front of them, there's so many different reasons, but it's hard to give up on tight end, in the first or second year. So he probably would have been a better buy 2 weeks ago, but
of course,
it's still worth a shot. Olsen, his contract is through next year. I never put it past him to come back and keep playing. Every year we think he's going to retire and he doesn't, but I got to imagine at some point he's going to just say, go, to the announcer's booth, and that's going to be, he doesn't get concussed and, screw his foot up or whatever, and, just move on to the next part of his career.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking for Ian Thomas in a bunch of my leagues this week. Ian Thomas and his huge hands. I'm going to be looking for him. I think he's a guy that not only could help a rebuilding team, but could also help a championship team, and not maybe so much this year, but he's one of those guys that, you have a stacked team, and he's the type of guy that just comes in a year or two from now and keeps your dynasty going. And championship teams need to find players like that. You just don't want to find your Zeke Elliott's and your Kyler Murray's and your DeAndre Hopkins, the big time names. You want those younger players that maybe haven't flashed. Yeah, a guy kind of like Irv Smith as well, who was a guy I was high on before the rookie draft started, and got him on a few of my teams. But those guys keep your dynasties going. When you win a championship and you're a top 2 or 3 team every year, and you're in contention every year, and Ian Thomas may be a guy who you pair with a Kittle that you drafted last year or traded before he really blew up, and you have that 1-2 punch at tight end, while everyone else in your league is trying to search just to get one tight end out there that might get them a touchdown or might get them 60 yards. You have 2 guys that can consistently get you double-digit fantasy points. So, yeah, I think we're both in agreement there that we want the guy. We want him as if we can get him. So now that we've gone through the news, and it was a light news week this week, so we didn't have a ton to talk about. But let's go to some of our Twitter ads. So this was a trade I was tagged in, and I want to get your opinion because I feel like this might actually be a debate between you and I. But this is from Dynasty FF Addict at Dynasty FF Addict. He just made this deal before the trade deadline. My man Outhouse is still here. We're both team no trade deadlines, but this league, they have a trade deadline, so he got this trade in right under the buzzer, it looks like. Calvin Ridley for 2021 and a 2022. Now, he also puts in his tweet, this is a 12-team, 1 QB PPR. The picks in each round are definitely going to be in the top 6, but they could possibly be in the top 3 based on where this team ends up. So are you taking a 2021 round and second round pick that are going to be in the top 6 picks for Calvin Ridley?
This was a tough one. I was thinking about this a bit before the show, and I really like Ridley. I'm not like a huge fan, but his opportunity is just gonna keep growing. They got rid of Sanu, Julio. Who knows what's happening with him? He always seems to be banged up a little bit. Hooper, if they don't re-sign him.
Mhm.
It just seems like there's a lot of additional targets available to him next year.
Right.
But I think I'm going with the picks. Just the value of those as it gets closer and closer to the draft. You could probably get Ridley for just the first, and you still have that second for change and as profit. So I'm taking the picks.
You're taking the picks. So Outhouse is going to be mad at me, and I hate when he is. But I have never been a huge Ridley fan. He's talented. Don't get me wrong. He's talented, and no one can deny that. But it just seems that on that team, Julio's there, and you're right. He is banged up here and there, and Sanu was there, but now he's gone. But they're getting Russell Gage involved, and Austin Hooper is still there, and Freeman hasn't done much this season, but this 2020 draft class is just stocked with positional talent all over the place. So they could get themselves a running back, pretty easy. Even in the second or third round, there are going to be a lot of guys there that are going to be super talented. And it just always seemed like he was going to kind of get lost in that shuffle. But I'm with you. I think I'm taking the picks. And I'm kind of surprised. I just had this feeling that you, like Outhouse, were going to be a big Ridley fan and yell at me and smack my hand for my not so much love, we'll call it, of Calvin Ridley. But the poll results on this one were actually they went with us as well. 72% for the picks and 28% for Ridley. So it seemed like the fantasy community agreed with us on this one. They like the picks as well.
I think anything with picks from now until May is just going to win. Like, we're getting to that season where the people only people that would even say that they want Ridley are people that are in the playoffs, which is about a third of the league, or to half of the league. So you already lost a lot of voters going, Ridley side. But I think picks are just going to be stupid expensive between now and then, and it's actually, I think you should be really going for like the mid first picks to like the mid second picks, because I don't necessarily know that this draft is going to be super, like, there's not this 1, 2, or 3 guys I think that are head and shoulders above everyone else. And so I think the value is going to be in that middle range, like right where these picks are. So like, even if he's saying worst case scenario, it's a 106 to 206. I mean, those are going to be good picks. And I think that's where you might be able to get them a little cheaper, and you might still be getting a very similar player. I think, maybe the top 3 are, at least as of right now, there's probably a tier there. But that's for Superflex. This is one QB, but it'll be interesting to see. But I think picks are going to win every poll between now and then.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Like you said, picks are going to win a lot of polls from here on out. And I think that if you're a smart dynasty player, you need to start looking at what your picks can get you in actual proven players. I've seen polls where the majority of people are voting for the 105 or the 106 over Derrick Henry. Which, don't get me wrong, I was a Henry hater going into this season. He had never really consistently shown it over more than a 3 or 4 game span, but he's tore it up this year. He's set the league on fire. And the fact that people will go for a 105 or 106 to maybe get someone who is Derrick Henry is crazy to me. But that's what you have to do with those picks, especially if maybe you are a good team and you made a trade and obtained the 105. So you have 2 first-round picks. You have that pick, and you're later towards the end of the first-round pick, maybe trading that 105 for Derrick Henry, and and see what you can get. And that's what I'm going to be doing in a lot of my leagues this year, is trying to turn the value of those picks into players that maybe in some other years you couldn't get that value for. So just a little tip there for everyone out there, whether you're here in the live chat or if you're listening to this on the pod, and trust me, there's probably 1 or 2 guys in your league that already have 4 or 5, number 1, first round picks, and they may be trying to do the same thing. So also don't get sucked into the hype as well. Don't trade your 106 for Derrick Henry and say, hey, I'm a good team, but now I have the 106. You just lost Derrick Henry. So careful, everyone, careful. So something that also caught my eye on Twitter, and this was a interesting, so to speak, question. So this is from Art Clausen, at Art Clausen. How do you prefer your dynasty rookie draft? So his 2 choices are straight, which is worst to first, or a snake draft. And I thought this was an interesting question because, I don't know a reason why you would do a snake draft for a rookie draft, but it actually got 23% of the vote. So almost 1 out of every 4 people thought that doing their rookie draft as a snake was the way to go. Bill, maybe there's something I'm missing. Help me out.
I think people misread it and were thinking about the startup draft.
Okay.
That's probably it. I've heard people ask this question before. But I can honestly say that in all of my leagues, that's never been discussed. It's the only place I've ever seen it's on Twitter. So I don't know if somebody's, maybe misspeaking. I don't see why you would ever do serpentine or snake draft. But because rookie drafts are to help the worst teams get better. So why would you hurt them in the second round by losing value? And, I don't really see why you would ever do a snake draft for that reason alone.
Yeah, and Outhouse explains it perfectly. The point of snaking is that it makes every spot even. That is exactly the opposite of the point of the rookie drafts. This is, in my opinion, this is what makes Dynasty so fun, is that maybe you don't have a good team. Maybe you took over an orphan. You have the opportunity to go into a rookie draft, take the best players, and turn your team's fortunes around. That's what makes Dynasty fun, is that even if you're a bad team, you have something to look forward to. You have the 101, you have the 102. You're rubbing your hands together and you're going, yeah, who am I going to get? I'm going to get DeAndre Swift. I'm going to get Joe Burrow. I'm going to get Tua, it's that's what makes it fun. You don't get that in a redraft league. If you're last, dude, you're last. You done. Season's over. You're waiting until June, July, August until you are doing your next draft. But in a redraft, as soon as the season's over and you're 101 or you're 102, that excitement comes back for you, and having a snake draft and going, oh, well, I'm 102 in the first round, but I'm 210 or 211 in the second round. That just sucks. Instead of going, okay, I'm 101, I'm 201, and just every round, you're one of those first couple picks, and you can, not only pick people but move around in the draft if you're at those higher positions, whatever you want to do. And Snake doesn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, like, I mean, you're always every league's gonna have those 2 or 3 guys that just aren't that good at at fantasy football,
Right.
and this just kind of prevents these guys. I mean, they can do damage regardless, but this kind of helps them not just be completely ridiculously terrible, and that if you did this snake draft, you're essentially not giving them the advantage they need to even be competitive.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, the people that always argue about it, of course, are the teams who are traditionally in the playoffs or, contending for the title. But that's just the way it works. That's the way it works in everything. So you're going to help the people who aren't quite as good at something. And, that's just the way it is. That's the way life is. And you got to deal with it.
Yeah. So that was a really good question. Bill, you saw something. Let's talk about it. What did you see on Twitter this week?
Okay, so Addison Hayes, hashtag AmazeHayes _ had tweeted, is there a bigger buy in Dynasty right now than Odell Beckham Jr.? What do you think?
So first of all, Addison Hayes is smarter than I could be, even if I had the genie lamp from Aladdin and wish to be smart. He's a smart dude. He's a great follow. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people are really selling Odell at a deep discount. I mean, maybe they are, and maybe I just haven't been pursuing him, but I don't feel like you can walk in with a, let's say, Derrick Henry again, a 105 or a 106 and get Odell. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some leagues that you can, but I still feel like, and I think if I was an Odell owner, I wouldn't be selling at a discount either. I think there are going to be changes made in Cleveland. I don't know if that's going to be revamping the entire coaching staff or firing an offensive coordinator or what, but I think there are going to be changes made, and I think you're going to see something a little bit different with the Cleveland Browns next year. So if I was an Odell owner, I wouldn't be selling him for a deep discount. And yeah, I mean, if you can get him for a discount, any kind of discount, even a small one, I think, yeah, go buy him. Go check out your Odell owners who probably drafted him really early, either with a late first or a very early second in their startup draft. And, maybe they're out of it. And one of the big reasons that they're out of it is that Odell just hasn't produced Odell type numbers. And go, hey, can I give you my first for Odell and see what they say? It can't hurt, but I just can't imagine people selling him for a deep discount. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much everything you said. I don't think he's being sold for that much of a discount. I would imagine that he is still a first round startup pick in the most recent ADP. And I mean, people aren't going to be selling him typically for a first round pick. So if you can get that, obviously jump at it. But I mean, I don't, like you said, I don't think that there's many people doing that. So I guess my response is I don't think there's a bigger buy than him. Yes, I agree with the situation. It'll probably change next year, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So, I mean, Odell might be what Odell is now. I don't know. I don't think that. Like, I have him in a few places. I'm not moving him unless I'm being offered a pretty solid return. But I guess it's worth checking to see if people are just super down on him right now. It's really just going to be shotgun method. Like, I bet if I made offers in 15 leagues, I would hope that one would be willing to move and we'd be able to make a deal that I feel is somewhat of a discount, but I don't even think that's going to be the case.
Yeah. So I have a question because I was just kind of thinking about this, and I've seen a lot of these type polls lately. I think a lot of people are just trying to gain insight for articles that they're writing and stuff like that. But if you're the Odell owner, do you trade Odell for the 101?
No.
And see, and that's really all that needs to be said, because I agree with you. Just for the 101 on its own, I'm not trading Odell. But, as you said, it might be the shotgun method. Send out your first, and maybe if you're a contender, maybe you send out your first and your second for Odell and see what the owner says, especially if the guy is a rebuilding team or a bottom of the standings type team. Maybe they are pissed off because they thought Odell was going to take them to the promised land, and they're sitting in 10th, 11th, 12th, maybe even 14th or 16th place, depending on the type of league you're in. And they're saying, shoot, I can get another first on top of my 101 or 102 for Odell, and I can have 2 picks in the top 7, let's say, or the top 6. That may be enticing enough for someone to give up Odell for just 1 first-round pick. But I have a feeling that if you're playing with smart guys, and hey, let's face it, sometimes we don't always play with smart guys, but if you are playing with a smart owner, I don't think they give up Odell for just the first. But yeah, it's interesting because I was going to say the same thing. I don't think I'm giving up Odell for just the 101. I'd need something else.
So, like, let's say we bounce back to one of the previous episodes. Would you do Godwin? Would you trade if you were the Odell owner? Would you move him for Godwin? Or Juju?
I think if I am the Juju owner, I think I try to throw him for Odell. Godwin is a little trickier for me, and I think it's because I've had Godwin love since the preseason. So I think I keep Godwin. I don't think I try to trade Godwin for Odell. But I think if I'm a Juju owner, and I loved Juju before in the preseason and before startups and stuff. But yeah, I think I go. I think I try to trade Juju for Odell, but I keep Godwin and not try to get Odell for Godwin. So kind of a mixed bag there. And what about you? Are you trading Juju or Godwin for Odell?
I don't know, and that's I should have never asked the question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think I do. I think if I have Odell, I'm moving him for Juju.
Okay.
I think I might be the complete opposite of you.
Right.
But it's super close. Like it's not like I'm, it's not, I don't feel like it's that far off either way. Like it might be like a second round pick each way, like for the
Hmm.
value difference between the three.
Right.
So I mean, ultimately, it's preference, team build,
Hmm.
that sort of thing. But I think in the offseason, I might offer Odell for Juju and feel okay with it. Um, I don't know if I could, and that's so weird because like Godwin's obviously doing the best, and so why would I not make that move for Godwin
Right.
and gain the years? I mean, I just feel like Odell has shown like he's obviously one of the most talented wide receivers, and you hope that things would improve. Juju showed it at a very early age. Godwin, it's taken a little bit more time, but he's had Evans across from him. So like they all have their warts and they all, have their pluses. So I really think it's just the age thing then. So, but I think I go Juju, OBJ, and then Godwin, but it's super close.
Yeah. And see, I think I go Godwin, OBJ, Juju.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Juju. I was one of the biggest Juju fans during the preseason and during the offseason. My biggest concern with Juju is the quarterback situation. Uh, Big Ben has been threatening retirement for a couple years now. He gets hurt very early in the season. Does Big Ben come back? If he does, Juju shoots to the top of the list again, and he is a bona fide stud. If Big Ben hangs it up, I mean, do they draft a quarterback? They don't have a first round pick. They gave that up for Minka Fitzpatrick. So, unless they're going to trade back in, they don't even have a shot of getting a quarterback until the second round.
They could trade for a vet.
Maybe they sign Andy Dalton. Maybe they sign Jameis Winston, one of these guys that may become available, and do that as a bridge. And both of those guys are competent, and I think both of those guys definitely increase Juju's value again. I don't think it's as bad as it initially sounds coming out of my mouth. Talking about Jameis and Andy Dalton, but both of those guys have proven that they can feed big time wide receivers and get big time wide receivers, tons of fantasy points. Just look at AJ Green, just look at Mike Evans, just look at Chris Godwin. Jameis Winston might throw 3 interceptions a game, but those guys still always seem to get points, and you love having those receivers on your team. So why wouldn't you be happy to have Juju if a Jameis or if an Andy Dalton shows up in town? Maybe they do go the draft route and get a guy in the second round to battle with Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges and whatever else they can kick up, and I actually think Devlin Hodges isn't bad. He's just not a starting quarterback in the league. He's that backup. He's that backup that, hey, we need you for a game or two, and he comes out there and he doesn't kill you. I won't say the same thing about Mason Rudolph because I think he will kill you.
I think that ship sailed.
Yeah, but one thing Hodges is good at, and just kind of for the remainder of the season, is he can throw deep and hit a guy. We've seen kind of James Washington blow up the last couple games with deep touchdowns, and he did it with Juju earlier in the season for a game. So, Devlin Hodges may, he may not be going in the first round of your Superflex startups in 2020, but he has been known to get a deep ball or two out there and hit a guy in stride. So But yeah, that's my thing. I kind of rambled on about that a little bit, but that's my fear about Juju is I don't know who the quarterback will be in 2020. And that's the only reason why I have him third in that group.
Yeah, I'm more confident that Ben comes back. But side note, did you happen to see the interception return for a touchdown in the Monday Night Football game?
I did not.
This is like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Oh my goodness.
So
I'll have to take.
I don't know if I want to
look at
ruin it or not. Like I won't do it justice. So
I'll watch it as soon as we get off the stream and see what you're talking about. But
like
I just peeked at my score because I need 9.31 points from Chris Carson tonight in order to not only make a playoff appearance, but I may be able to jump from 8th place into the 4 seed if another game goes my way.
nice.
And at halftime, Chris Carson currently has 9.3 points. So I am currently in a dead tie going into halftime. So I literally need one Chris Carson yard to win and pray to God he doesn't fumble. But yeah, so I saw a text come. Yeah, I saw a text come through, and it's the guy I'm playing, and I'm sure he's kind of like, "Dude, you're gonna beat me," and I don't even want to open it because I don't even want to put that bad karma into the world. I just want to watch the game, cheer Chris Carson, give him all my love, and hope he just gets me one more yard. Obviously, another touchdown by him would be great, but just keep getting positive yardage and don't fumble the ball. Don't get knocked back for losses and don't fumble. But
right.
But yeah, so it's gonna be a fun game to watch. I kind of turned off the game during the stream because I was afraid that if I saw another Chris Carson touchdown, I might start yelling and screaming during the stream.
People would wonder. Edit.
People would wonder what the hell's wrong with me. So
that'd be our intro.
Yeah, I was actually screaming when Chris Carson scored his first touchdown before the stream. Bill and I were talking and just heard me screaming, "Well, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Chris Carson just scored." So
yeah, my feed's like 30 seconds behind yours. So
so last but not least, and I like doing this. You and I both see some things. We see people write articles, and when we see good ones, this is going to be the show where we kind of highlight them, and whether they're big time or they're a small guy just getting started. If we see something that we like, we're going to shout it out on the show. So Curtis Patrick at C Patrick NFL, he has a great article about selling Lamar Jackson in one quarterback leagues. You guys should find it if you haven't already taken a look at it, read it. It is a great read, and it made a lot of great points. But you and I, most of our leagues, if not all of our leagues, are super flex. And the main point, and obviously go and read the article if you're listening to the pod, check it out for yourself. But the main point pretty much is these guys don't repeat these historic type seasons. Patrick Mahomes did it last year. He's fallen back a little bit. He did have a couple games that he was out with an injury, but even if you go on a 16-game pace, he's not going to hit the numbers that he hit last year. Lamar Jackson, my fantasy MVP, is on a historic pace, and a lot of it has to do with the running, what he's doing with his legs. But if you're in a super flex league, is selling Lamar Jackson actually an option for you? And let me know what you're thinking, Bill.
Superflex. I mean, there's only a handful of guys that have like the ceiling to be like one of the best quarterbacks. Like I think anybody who's at the top like that's just that they're going to regress. I think you have to sell them if you get the right price. Like I have Mahomes in a handful of leagues, and I was able to move him in a couple of them because people were offering what I felt was a fair deal. Otherwise, I'm going to hold on to him because it's not worth just moving him because he's not going to have the same next year. I still believe he's going to be a top 5 quarterback for the next decade. So why do I not want that on my team? Now, Lamar is a little bit of a different story because he still isn't great at passing the ball. He's good, he's adequate, but he's still going to be improving. So theoretically, as he starts to slow down in the running, he's going to be improving in the passing. So, I mean, because I only have a couple shares, it's really hard for me to say, oh yeah, I'm going to move him, but it would really just be dependent on the offer. And I don't even know what that offer would need to be for me to move him. Especially in a super flex, because if you have one of those top 5 guys that just outscore everybody else, that's a huge advantage to the other, against the other guys. But, God, that's tough. I don't think I move him unless I'm just blown out of the water.
So let me give you a hypothetical offer, and you tell me if you are selling Lamar for this price. Superflex. I'm giving you Jared Goff and 2 mid to late first round picks. Are you selling Lamar for that package?
Probably not.
Okay.
I'm not a believer in Goff. I mean, he had a big week this week against a terrible defense. I just don't. Late first rounders, you really don't know what you're getting. I mean, I'll end up picking the wrong 2 guys, and so I don't think so. I think I'm holding on to Lamar just because his upside is so up. I mean, there's really only 2 quarterbacks I feel have that just enormous upside, and it's Mahomes and Lamar. So I don't know if I move those guys without it being like a, snap accept. If I have to even think about it, I think it's no for me. And that actually really goes against how I typically play Superflex. Like I typically don't mind just having like, a lower QB1 and maybe like an upper QB2 and just be fine with that. But I think if you get any of those guys in that top, that top 5 that are 22, 23, 24 years old, and there's no reason to think that they're not going to be up there for the next decade, I don't see how you make that move. Like, do I move them for Zeke? No. Do I move them for, like we talked about this last week with the startup for the Superflex, and I mean 14 team, I don't think you could get me to move them. 14 team Superflex. 12 team, I mean, I'd consider it. Goff, I've never been a Goff guy. I think Goff has such a, like, he's never going to be the guy that you can feel comfortable putting him in every week unless everything is correct for them. Like everything's working. But I think they kind of figured out how to defend his weakness or his strengths, and it's hurting him. So yeah, I don't know. Who would I need? I wouldn't do Wentz and 2 firsts. So like, I guess I wouldn't be trading them.
What about Kyler and a mid first?
I'd consider that. That'd be right
Okay.
in that. I mean, just because I feel like he still has that rushing ability, and he's in an offense that's high tempo. So that'd be something I'd be considering. I don't feel it's a snap accept, but like that I would at least be talking with that.
Right.
But that, of course, that would have to be something I'd be doing like in the off season, because there's no way I'm trading him right now.
Oh no.
In the right before the playoffs. So
No. And I think most Lamar owners, especially in a super flex, they're probably doing pretty well. They're probably in the playoffs. So you're not getting Lamar right now. I think this is a move that if you have Lamar, this is what you are looking at during the offseason, and seeing if anyone reaches out to to ask you about Lamar. Hey, is he available? Seeing what their roster is, and going with that. And it may be and it may not even involve picks. It may be an issue where you are trading Lamar for Dak Prescott and something, or you're trading Lamar for Deshaun and something else,
what would
where
it take? Like who? Like let's say I have you have Lamar. I really want him.
Mhm.
I know that you're a
Mhm.
Dak guy.
Yeah,
I have him in this league, and I offer you Dak and Ridley.
probably not. And here's the reason why. Dak has been killing it this season. I don't know if Dak kills it next season. I don't know who the head coach in Dallas is going to be. 99.9% sure it's not going to be Jason Garrett.
I think you're wrong.
Oh, you think
this should be a bet, but it can't be a bet till the end of the season. You know what I mean? Because we won't know the result. Like, I'm not going to just poll people because.
So this is on the board. This isn't a poll.
Correct.
This is on the board.
Yes.
The head coach for the Dallas Cowboys, starting the 2020 season. I'm taking the field. You're taking Jason Garrett.
Yes.
This is awesome. We got one in this episode. I think Jerry Jones' comments, this is the first time pretty much since Jason Garrett has been there that he's spoken negatively, even though it's been a very, very mild negative. But he's been talking about the fact that this team should be doing more, and they should. I mean, you have the league leader in passing yards. You have Ezekiel Elliott. You have Amari Cooper, and you are 6-6. You just lost to the Buffalo Bills at home. Buffalo's a good team, but their record makes them sound a little bit better than what they actually are.
I think they're a good team.
Oh,
like they held New England pretty tight, and I think they're a good team. Their defense is fantastic. So
agreed.
I don't, and their offense suits their defense. So okay, well, we'll see. I just think that okay, they're gonna make the playoffs. I don't think that they're not gonna make the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dallas. So there's really almost no way that they can't make the playoffs. I don't think, because they're 2 games up, aren't they?
No, they're 1 game up, because they were one game up, and both Philly and Dallas lost, so they keep their 1 game lead.
Okay, but does Dallas have the tiebreaker?
Currently, but they play each other week 16.
Okay.
So if Philly wins that game, if Philly wins out, Philly's in the playoffs.
Okay. So yeah, they're not
with-
winning out though.
Yeah,
So
it's hard.
like,
It's hard to say that after they lost to Miami, but technically, if they win out, I mean, Dallas still has to play Chicago. Dallas still has to play the Rams. They have to play Philadelphia. So
we have a bet.
we have a bet. I think I'm taking the field. You're taking Jason Garrett. That's going to be fun to see because, yeah, I think I don't think I think they make the playoffs. I think they probably lose in the first round. They're going to have maybe Minnesota coming back in. If what's their name? The Seahawks win today. The 49ers fall to fifth place. They may be hosting the 49ers. And that's
I never thought I would root for Dallas to make a NFC title game.
But I think that's what it's going to take. But on that note, I think we're gonna be done here today. Bill, it's been awesome.
Yes,
Another
sir.
great episode by you. I appreciate it. Everyone, Outhouse was in the chat. If you were in the chat on the live stream, thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening to us. If you're listening to this on the pod, remember, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, Google Play. Find us, subscribe, leave a rate and review if your podcast service allows you to do that. We really appreciate it. Everybody, peace out. Have a good night.
Late.